Well, hi everyone, Ivana Taylor here, your host of Bizapalooza Chat, and I want to welcome you to the Monday edition where we plug in. So I'm really excited today because we're going to be talking about distraction. And just for that, I've got my good friend Clara Capano, who is a pro at this kind of stuff. Why watch me when you can be watching her? Let's welcome her. Hi, Clara. Nice to meet you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Clara, talk a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to lately.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I am a business coach and strategist, and I just published my first book, which is called Find Your Focus, 52 Weeks of Clarity. And I sort of stumbled into it because I saw the challenges that a lot of people had with time management and not being able to stay focused and on tune because, let's be honest, distractions happen. They're not going away. So I really like to be able to help people with strategies to better leverage their time and work with those distractions so that they can be more productive in what they do. So I work with a lot of individuals one-on-one. I also do a lot of trainings and keynote speaking events that focus on these topics.
Awesome. So you know I have to ask you this particular question while folks are dropping in. Why do you do this? What was your defining moment?
You know, I think my defining moment was when my son, who is now 12, he was 3.5, and I was doing the typical multitasking that a lot of moms do. And he took the phone out of my hand and said, "Mommy, you're not paying attention to me." And it was right then and there that I said, you know, I've got to find a better way to make this work so I can be more present and serve on a higher level. So that was really a big defining moment for me.
So what were some of the first steps you took? Because I imagine you weren't a pro right away.
No, I was not. I asked for help. I found a lot of great mentors to help me with strategies. And along the way, I just sort of tweaked them and adapted them to me. One of the biggest things that I was distracted on was the telephone. That's probably one of the biggest distractions I had because I was in the field of real estate. And, you know, the phone rings, it could be a potential client. You want to be that Pop-Tart realtor and answer the phone because you don't want anybody to do it. And I realized that I had to let that go for a moment so I could be present with the current client that I was either with or working on their file. So it was little strategies such as putting my phone on do not disturb or putting it in another room and only checking it about every 30 or 45 minutes. And what I found in doing that is not only did it allow me to get more done in a short period of time, but I found that my clients were fine with it. And oftentimes they found the solutions for what they needed before I would even call them back. And when I called them back, I had the information they needed. So I was viewed as much more of a professional. So I started with things like that. And then I moved into just doing more weekly planning, daily planning to get my schedule more on task and more on focus. And that just sort of kind of triggered in. And then I just started teaching and training, which has always been my passion. And it was helping others. And that felt great. So it just really fueled me to do even more.
So talk a little bit about how you got to writing this book. What was it that inspired you to write the book and what's in the book?
Okay. I've always wanted to be a writer. That my dream job is to be an author and a keynote speaker. And it's been just on my task list to do forever. And I've been writing a blog for about 3 years. And with my blog, I use little stories that I might find or anecdotes or just things that happen to me in day-to-day life. And I try to find connections between how they can help us in life and business. So the book is a compilation of many of my blogs. And what I did is I took the blog entry and then created a workbook along with it. So the idea would be to take the entry, to read the entry, and then journal about it and write down some of the thoughts that came to mind, and then maybe create some of the strategies and the focuses that you can do that week to help you get better. So the book is non-industry specific. It is both in business, life, relationships. So it really is there for anybody that just wants to get stronger, be more purposeful, and be more focused in their life. And it's been a lot of fun and it's been very well received. It's really nice to see just people from all different backgrounds and lifestyles having some fun with it.
So now let me be Oprah here and ask you, given the focus, you know, the focus of the book and the focus that we all need inside of distraction, tell me a little bit about what you know for sure about distraction, productivity, and focus.
All right. Well, I do a lot with distractions, and it's one of my favorite classes that I teach. So some of the things that I have found is, you know, we get distracted every 3 minutes. It could be a phone that's ringing or even a fly that's going past our face, but we get distracted so often. But mentally, it also takes us about 11 minutes to get back and retuned. So if you're thinking about that over the course of an hour, we really are only getting about 4 minutes of truly focused work time. It's no wonder why we're always feeling behind the 8 ball and simple tasks are taking us hours to do. So we have to really get better at getting that area of focused attention and learning how to put those distractions aside. So I think the first step is knowing for you, what is the most distracting? Is it your phone? Is it the text messaging? Is it your family, the dog that's, my dog is over in the corner right now. And really just putting in strategies and ways to block it out. One of my favorite strategies is something that I call bubble time. And what I do with that is I chunk everything into hour increments. So if I was starting at 9 o'clock, from 9 to 9:45, I step into my bubble and I put all distractions away. I turn off my social media feeds. I sometimes shut down my inbox for mail. I put my phone away and I focus on whatever it is that I need to focus. It could be organizing my office, reading a book, putting a class together, whatever it may be. Then at the 45-minute mark, I step out of my bubble and I address my voicemails, my inbox, whatever it is that I can address. And then at 10 o'clock, I step back into my bubble. And I try to do that 2 or 3 times a day. And it's amazing how much more productive I can be, because so many of us think that we are multitaskers, but multitasking really doesn't exist because your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. And I had to really change my mindset. And this is what I try to work with my clients on. We want to give so much to other people. And we say, well, if I just help them here and I answer this email here, we think that we're delivering a high level of service. When what we're doing is exactly the opposite. Because when we do this thing called multitasking, it actually takes us 50% longer to get a task done. And we do it at the rate of 3 times greater error. So when you think about, am I truly serving my clients? Am I serving my family? No, because if I went to go have surgery done, do I really want a distracted surgeon who's going to take twice as long and probably have 3 times greater errors in doing my surgery? No. So why do we want to do that for the people that we work with? So I love talking about distractions, and I think because they're real. And you can't simply just say, oh, don't be distracted. Be stronger than the distractions. They're out there. And if we don't learn to manage them and create strategies to help us, we're not going to get any better.
Well, isn't that the truth, right? And it's so true. You can only do one thing at a time. And that really takes something to get. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and she was like, I just keep getting overwhelmed because like these thoughts, I call them threads of thought, especially the one that you get like at, when is it usually, like 2 or 3 in the morning?
Oh, yes.
Right? The one when you like barely wake up. And I think the one commercial really nailed it. The one where the woman is like trying to get to sleep and the boss is sitting there going, are you going to email me? Send me that report, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of how it starts. So we got to talking about the fact that I said to her, I said, you're not thinking multiple things at the same time. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
Right. Your brain is like in milliseconds flipping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, do you ever find yourself getting in that space, or are you like perfectly focused all the time?
Oh, I'm absolutely perfect. No, I am far from perfect. It happens all the time. I can hear my phone dinging and going off. And so it does take concerted efforts to say, no, this is where I am and this is where I'm present. And I think that's why I love that concept of the bubble time so much, because I know when I have time to do it. The other thing that has really helped me as well as others is the time blocking. I have everything planned, and it may seem silly, but the first things that I plan is my life, because so many of us don't plan for life, and therefore we never have a life, and then we get resentful and burned out. So I don't have to ever worry about, am I going to have time to do these things, because it's already in my schedule. And my schedule is pretty down to where take a shower, go walk the dog, because that way I don't have to worry if I'm going to forget about it or if I'm not going to get to it, because everything has its place in my schedule. So, and I also have time for what I call the plan B, because your life is unscripted and I could have the entire day planned out and something's going to happen. So I usually have 2 or 3 30-minute sections, maybe even just 15 minutes throughout the day, so that when something comes in, I can just put it over here and say, I'll address that on my next plan B time.
Buffer time, right? How
Buffer time.
often do we do that? And I think people think I'm crazy, and I yell at my husband all the time because he will like create this long impossible list, and I'm like, there's only one way to be about this list, and that is like a failure, right? So like I love buffer time because it gives me, I don't even know if it's I don't know if I want to say like whether it's I'm getting older or whatever, but I really feel as maybe I'm going to call it gain more wisdom.
Yes.
I feel like I love having buffer time and love having that sense, because then I could be 100% with someone.
And it's so important. You know, the most amazing gift is the gift of time and presence. And we don't find that. And what I noticed is that as I started being more present with people, at first they were a little shocked about it because they're like, is something wrong? And I was like, no, I'm just really here for you now. But it really is an amazing gift. And when you can slow down enough and do that, not you gain trust, which helps you in business, but think about just even your, you know, internal relationships and your interpersonal relationships with your kids, with your loved ones, to just let them know I'm here for you. It's really, truly amazing. And you get so much more out of it, and it's much more rewarding on both levels. And the product that you produce is better.
So let's get down to basics and let's talk about clarity and focus. Because right now on Twitter, everyone is chatting about clarity and what it means to be clear and how you define clarity. So how do you define clarity, and what's the difference between clarity and focus?
Okay. Well, they really do go hand in hand. And what I find is that confused people don't take action. When you're confused about things, you just stand still because you don't know what to do. But when you are clear, you have confidence to be able to move forward, whether that's on a business venture or a life venture. So having clarity means that you really know internally what it is that you need to do to achieve the goal that's at hand. And by having that, it allows you to stay focused, because when you are clear, you want to be focused because you're so excited and passionate about achieving the goal. So what I find is that when I get unfocused, a lot of times it's because I'm either not super excited, or maybe I'm not connected with or clear enough on why I'm doing something, because I'm kind of like, if I get it done, I get it done. Or maybe I'm avoiding it because it's uncomfortable to me. So the lack of focus is a great way for you to step back and give an assessment. Is it something that I'm avoiding because I'm fearful, or is it just because I'm unclear of it? And then you can direct it either way. But when you are clear, nothing can stop you. You know, we always find time to do the things that are a priority to us. And when we really are connected with what we want to accomplish, nothing will stop you. You will put everything aside. And we've all had those moments where we are in the zone, where everything can be going off around us and we are just clearly focused. And usually it's because we're so excited about finishing something that the focus is easy. And so I think anytime that you're feeling truly unfocused, you got to just take a step back and ask, why am I unfocused? And then sit down and say, really recreate, okay, what am I clear about? What are the steps that I need to do? And why am I doing this?
Well, let's talk about getting unstuck. I really, really get that. I'm sitting here in the midst of a little bit of that right now, right? And you mentioned that fear gets in the way, as does, what did you say? Either you're fearful about something and you said something else.
Or you're unclear and you don't know your why.
Right? You don't know your why. Okay, so let's talk about each of those circumstances. What is a great tip or a great way to get clear or to overcome whatever fear you've got going on?
So let's take the unclear part and the why first. I think it's really important to sit down whenever you have a goal and just journal on it. You know, what will I accomplish when I get this done? How can it help or serve others? Who will I become? And is that a person I want to be? And really connect it on some higher levels. For some people, it's a really big thing, like maybe their why is digging wells in Africa to bring water, which is fantastic. For other people, it could be, I want to do this to have financial freedom when I retire, or to send my kids to college and not have to take out a loan. So your why is yours. It doesn't matter what it is, but you really need to sit down and connect with it on a higher level, because if you don't know your why, you'll never feel that grasp. So as a single mom, a lot of times my why is my son. But my why has changed over the years. When I was in my 20s, my why was all about making money, making my mark, and creating a name for myself. I didn't have a kid. It was fine. Then when my son was much younger, it was really about putting food on the table as I was building my business. Now that I'm in a better spot financially, my son's getting a little older, my why is much more about contribution and serving. So it will change, but the more that I do that, it really helps me stay more focused because I want to accomplish these things. Also, it becomes not about me. I have other people counting on me. I've made a commitment to my clients. I've made a commitment to my colleagues. I've made a commitment to the globe and the world on being a better person. So I don't have the ability not to be focused because I have other people counting on me that I know I can impact in a positive way. And that's a pretty big why. When fear comes in, you have to look at that too, because life is scary. In this instance, this was scary. I'm putting myself out there. I'm being vulnerable. It's, something that I haven't necessarily done too much of. But having that fear, if I don't do this, I can't help others. So I think when you're fearful, you also have to really ask yourself, what is the fear coming from? Is it because it's something that's unknown to me? And if so, how can I learn more about it so I don't have to be fearful? Because once we figure it out, it's not as fearful. Am I fearful because I'm afraid of being rejected? Well, what's really the worst that could happen? And am I okay with that? So I think really digging deeper and asking, where is that fear coming from? Because oftentimes it's the own stories that we have in our head. A lot of people find it funny because I used to be afraid of public speaking. Now that's what I do. And I do it for anywhere from, 20 people on up to 500 people. And it's not a problem anymore. And what it was for me is one of my dear mentors is he was telling a story about somebody else who was afraid of public speaking. And he was asking the lady, what are you afraid of? And she was talking about, well, I'm afraid of how I look. What if I don't sound right? And he's like, does the information you have matter? Will it help your audience? And she said, absolutely. And he said, then you have an obligation to bring it to them. And so I try to remember that too. Why am I fearful? It's always about me. And when I take it off of me and focus on what it will bring to others, then usually I'm able to go through it because it takes the focus and puts it on something more positive and impactful.
Well, that's just in time because while we're chatting, everyone else is chatting about clarity and focus.
Good.
And Andrea asked the question. So everyone's been right along with you saying, if you're clear, then it's easy to be focused, right? Mm-hmm. But Andrea says, I see it the opposite way. You need focus to get to clarity. And there lies the crux of my question. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, again, they go very hand in hand. And I think they feed each other because when you're focused, you have to be clear because you can't be focused and be over here and over there and focusing on 20 different things at one time. So when you are focused, you are extremely clear on what you need to do at that moment. So going back to the concept of the bubble time, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You have that focused time to get clear on whatever it is that you want to do. And it helps you slow down and say, I need to do this task in this way. And it keeps you from going over and letting the distractions in. So they really do go hand in hand together. She's absolutely right.
So what we're really talking about here is putting a structure in place. And I love that you said one of the first things that you do is plan your life, right? It's almost like that importance urgency matrix, the Eisenhower matrix that folks talk about, where you're sitting down. And I think that, the Franklin Planner used to teach that, right? Those of
Stephen
us
Covey
who are old enough to remember the Franklin Planner book, they talk about sitting down and really getting focused on your roles, your responsibilities, your goals, and what tasks need to happen. And then you put a structure in place so that, and there, whether you're talking about bubble time or you're talking about time blocking or whatever it is, are you using any tools to help you along with that? Or are you just kind of, are you doing this Pomodoro thing or what are you doing? If any?
I kind of created a morph of a few different ones. And so what I do is my business planning time is on Sunday nights. So on Sunday nights, I sit down and first and foremost, I reflect on last week. What went well? What were some challenges? What were some wins that I had? I rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. How was my week? And if I gave it an 8, what could have changed or what could I have done differently to make it a 10? And then I go into planning the upcoming week, putting my schedule together. Who do I need to follow up with? What are my blogs going to be this week? And getting that together. So it takes me about 45 minutes to put it together. And I created a binder. And so I have a binder that has different sections in it. So one section is my business plan for the year. Then I have my weekly business plans. Then I have an idea section and just some other note sections in there. So I have, and what I did is I took from Darren Hardy, who's one of my mentors. He has something called the weekly rhythm register. And that works very well for me because it focuses on the actions. And I'm really big on if I just do the right actions, the results take care of themselves. So I can clearly say these are the 8 areas of focus, the 8 projects and the 8 things that I need to do this week. And then I have a goal. So if one of my things, which is my secret weapon, is my morning routine. So I know I want to do my morning routine and I know my goal for that is 5. So I'll just go through that. And then every day I just check off, did I do them? Did I do my 10 note cards? Did I do my 2 blogs? And then it just keeps me focused because I have my weekly business plan. But then every day as part of my morning routine, I check in on that. And I spend about 5 minutes in the morning to say, based upon my weekly plan, what are my main focuses for today? What are the top 3 things that I need to accomplish to make today great? And then I plug those into my schedule to make sure that I'm doing those. So I always focus on 3 things at one time. Most of us have a laundry list of to-do things. And there's something out there called lion syndrome. And the concept of this is that if you go to the circus, you have the lion, and the lion tamer is there with his whip and his stool and can tame the lion. Kill the lion tamer very easily. But it doesn't. Well, in the lion's mind, it doesn't just see the lion tamer. It actually sees 6 things coming at it at one time. The lion tamer, the whip, and then the 4 stools, the 4 legs of the stool. And it says, I cannot take on 6 things at one time. So it becomes docile and then can be tamed. The same thing happens to us. Our brain slows down after we feed it about 5 bits of information. And after about 9, it pretty much shuts down. So if I
Is it me? Oh no, come on. Sorry, guys. Oh, she's dropped. Clara will be right back. Here she comes. I know. Here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you. We're back.
I'm back. Where did you lose me?
My God. You were talking about the binder. You were talking about...
I was talking about the lion syndrome. Did we talk about the big 3?
That's where you started.
Okay. So the idea is to chunk things down into just 3 items because it doesn't overwhelm your brain. So even though I do have a to-do list that maybe has 15 items, I take them in chunks of 3 at a time. So I say, what are the top 3 things I need to get done today? And I focus on getting those done. And then if there's time, then I go to the next 3. But even if I only get 3 things done each day, that's still 15 to 21 things each week. And they're the 3 most important ones. So I think a lot of focus and clarity is about simplifying and not trying to do it all. And we do that. We try to give our all to everybody. We try to do as much as we can. And that's really counterproductive to what we really need to focus on.
I think that's excellent, excellent advice. And wow, you are a total pro.
Well,
I can't
thank
believe
you.
you made it back for this, because there is a lively conversation
Oh, good. I love hearing that.
on, right? There's a lively conversation going on here. I think the other question I had for you, as you were talking about your system and your goals and moving through them. See, I'm not good at distraction either. Like I was like all wrapped up in technical what to do
Well,
next,
you have
right?
a couple things going on there, so we got to give you some props for everything you're doing.
Yeah, right. I'm like, oh my God. But okay, so you had just talked about what you do daily. And let me ask you, so how long does it take for you to run through? Like, how long does all this take for you on a daily basis?
Mhm. On a daily basis, it's not that much. I am an early bird. I get up at 5 in the morning, but my morning routine is about 20 minutes long. So I get up and the first thing I do are my affirmations and my gratitudes. And then I go in and I do a little bit of journaling. I do a couple handwritten notes for people that I want to touch that day. And then I just look at my schedule. Who am I meeting with? How do I get prepared for it? So mentally I can get prepared. I can pull up the notes that I need to do. And then I say, what are the big 3 things that I need to get done today? Now, keep in mind, the big 3 can be anything. Oftentimes it's, I need to call this person or I need to work on this project. But I'll be honest, sometimes a big 3 is I've got to go buy dog food because I'm feeding my dog pancakes because I forgot to go to the store. And that might be a big 3 for the day. And then I can say, okay, when am I going to get these things done? And so it takes, just a few minutes each day. But whenever I talk with people in my individual coaching sessions, the one thing they always say is, if you could just find me 3 extra hours a day. This planning does that. By spending the time up front, it actually frees up your time. So if you're feeling like you need more time, this is the gift that will give it to you. So I take about 45 minutes on Sunday and then 20 minutes a day. And that really helps me to make sure that my time is going to the right areas. The other thing is you have to learn how to say no, because you can't do it all.
I think that's so. All right, Clara. So what throws you off your game?
What throws me off are obviously parenting. If I get the call from the school right now that says your son's sick, I got to go. So I think, one, forgiving yourself and knowing that certain things happen. So if it's a life, family, or health issue, you got to go, because that's the thing that's most important. When something else comes up, I just take a moment and, I always think about the Twix candy bar has that commercial and they eat the one cookie and then they'll have a little kid that asks an awkward question and they say, take a Twix moment and eat the other one. I take a Twix moment and I ask myself, if I redirect myself over to this direction, 1, does this make good business sense? And 2, if I agree to go there, what am I agreeing not to do? So that it can really help me to make better business decisions. The other thing I do is I go back to, who do I want to become? And I really focus on that. And so if who I want to become is somebody that others look to, a role model, somebody who really is someone that does high performance business, I have to ask myself, would a true high performer do this? Clara, the person that you want to become, would they make this decision or would they say, no, I'm going to do that later? So using those as sort of a measuring stick. But yeah, I mean, life comes up. I could hear the gardeners outside, maybe doing landscaping, UPS dropping. So it's all those same things that we all have. It's just a matter of using my tools to help me better manage them, because they're not going away. It's just, are you going to be stronger than the distractions? And for me, it's focusing on the person that I want to become and the bigger goals that helps me say, no, I'll do that later and come back to what I need to be focused on.
I love that. It sounds like something I live by, which is be, do, have, right?
Yes.
You have to be who you're being and then do the things that those people do.
Right.
And then you'll have the things that those people have. So given some of that, what is it that most small business owners or entrepreneurs just don't get about clarity and focus? Because they're wearing so many hats. What aren't they getting?
I would really go back to the concept of you can't do it all and really focusing on being present. Those are the 2 things that I see most often, is they overcommit themselves. They always think they could just get one more thing in and they are not fully present. So I think getting really clear on what your role is, who is your ideal client, and what is your process. And remembering that you don't have to take on everybody as a client. So when I go through and I talk to clients, when a new opportunity comes up, I go through it and I have my own metrics to say, is this truly fit within my process? Is this a client that I feel I can help that would be bringing what they need to bring to the table? And if not, then I say, this isn't the right opportunity, and I move forward. Because if it's the wrong opportunity, I won't be able to serve, and it'll take my time away from what I really need to do. So I think for a lot of business owners, it's just really getting clear on your role, your process, and your ultimate goals, and knowing that if somebody can't fit into it, that's okay. When you have that law of abundance behind you, you don't have to serve everybody because you're free yourself up to serve the right people. And then I think just really being able to be really focused and present and put some strategies in play to know that this is what I need to do for right now, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes. Because when I think about it with a client, if I, even here with you, I'm here present with you in our Twitter family. If I was answering my phone and doing those things, I would not be here. And that's not fair. So we really want to just, be the best person we have and give that gift of presence. And I think just give yourself some latitude,
So I believe you say in your book, or I read somewhere, because I got the question right here. I think you say that people carry around a lot of mental baggage. What kind of mental baggage are they carrying around?
So much from I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, what if I get rejected, I sound silly, why would they want to work with me, why is my product a better product? I mean, we create all of these things, and it's really that internal dialogue, and it stems from fear. It's our own internal fear, and we really have to leave that on the stoop because it's not taking care of us.
But I see people really struggling with that, to your point, right? So it's this mental baggage, I think, is what creates a lot of this confusion, overwhelm, and fuzziness.
Yes.
Right.
And I have it too. I do it too. And so a lot of it is in reprogramming the brain. So I mentioned that one of the first things I do are my affirmations and gratitudes. And I do that to reprogram my brain so that I can see myself as the person that I want to become. And really understanding that those little programs we have, those little gremlins in our brain, they love to go 24/7, and they tell us all these stories of how we can't do things. And we sometimes have to just tell them to shut up and go away because they're not serving us. But you've got to really believe in yourself. And for me, I believe in my product. I believe in the strategies that I talk about. I believe and have so much passion for being able to help people because I know that we deal with these things every day. And it's having that strong core and belief in what I'm saying that allows me to go forward and put those little gremlins aside because they're pulling me back saying, oh, somebody else has another process. Oh, you know what? 20 other people are telling them something over here. And I just have to say, you know what? That's okay. Because if only one person wants to listen to me and I can help that one person, that's good enough for me. And I think we also have to go back to how do we define success? So, as I mentioned earlier in my 20s, success was about money and prestige. Now success is very different. It's about my legacy that I want to leave behind. So I have 3 metrics that I look at every day. Did I show somebody love today? Did I inspire someone? And did I contribute positively to the world? And if I could say yes to those 3 things, then my day was successful. And I really use those to guide me through the days and to help me, again, stay focused, stay clear, and to put those little internal messages and that excess baggage to the side as much as possible. Oh, but it's there. And we all have it. It's there.
Well, all of us are dealing with challenges, and you talk a lot about embracing your challenges. Mm-hmm. Doesn't that just make them bigger? How do you actually overcome challenges by embracing them?
By embracing them, it means acknowledge them. I think sometimes we deny that they exist and we try to pretend that we're perfect and, oh, I've got everything covered. And let's be real. Life is hard. Sometimes our kids are challenging. Sometimes we have a bad day. Sometimes our boss is a jerk. Let's not try to deny these things. But the only way we can actually get through our challenges if we acknowledge them. So if my challenge is lack of energy, I can't sit there and say, oh, I'm energized and keep pushing through, because then I'm going to eventually hit a wall and have a breakdown. Whereas if I truly sit down and say, okay, Clara, why are you feeling this lack of energy? What can you do? Do you need to take a nap? Do you need to go to bed tonight at 8 o'clock? And by acknowledging the challenges, we can start being real. And when we acknowledge the challenge and actually ask for help from people, there's so many other people there that want us to be successful and be great. And this whole community opens up to us. I am just so tired of trying to pretend that I've got it all under control, because we're all a hot mess on some shape and form. And the sooner that we can just embrace it, that's our own authenticity. That's where strength comes from. Brené Brown talks about it a lot in her TED Talks around vulnerability and shame. You know, when you are vulnerable and authentic, that's where you truly find strength, and you can grow and get stronger because people want to help you, and you start breaking down all the BS and grow.
So you also mentioned, you just talked about it now, energy, right? And we've been talking about managing time in terms of blocks and bubbles and so on and so structures, but now you just mentioned energy. What's the relationship between managing your energy and managing your time?
Energy it's really important. And in order to manage your time and leverage your time, you have to have the energy to do it. So everybody has their own level. And I believe it is Stephen Covey again that talked about the 4 different energy quadrants. And you have your high positive all the way to your low negative. And when you're in your high positive, that's when we feel we're in the zone. And in studying athletes, that is what's called the performance quadrant. And my goal is that when I show up to work or to do what I want to do, I need to be in the performance quadrant, because that's where my energy is highest and that's where I give my best. So every day I sit down before I start work and I say, what's my energy level today? And if my energy is not feeling it, I have to say, you know what, Clara, you've got 10 minutes before your first call. How are you going to get that energy? Is it in listening to a podcast? Reading something motivational? Do I need to get up and do some jumping jacks? Whatever it is. But if my energy is low, it all goes back, and I say it all the time, it all goes back to that level of servitude. If my goal is to truly serve on the highest level, I have to have the energy to do it. And that starts with the physical energy and also the mental energy. Part of my morning routine is working out. Now, that's not the 20 minutes that I talked about. It's on top of that, but I do that in the morning. And I work out not just to look good, but it's to give me the energy, because I cannot do what I do. I cannot stand up and travel around the globe and do all these speaking engagements and be in my high performance zone if I don't have the energy. The other thing that I have learned is I have to go to sleep, because if I don't sleep, then I'm not going to have energy. And my friends laugh at me. I get up at 5 a.m. I'm crawling into bed at about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I have no business being out past dark much. And so, I do that. And I go to sleep because I need to do it to be in my high performance quadrant to be able to serve. So you just have to know, and everybody feeds their energy in different levels. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's reading scripture. You just have to understand what it is. And a lot of it is also in who you spend your time with. And you've got to realize that people are either, anchors or steam engines. They're either pulling you back or pushing you forward. So a lot of my energy comes from the people that I choose to spend my time with. It also is in what I choose to listen to. In the morning, a lot of times I listen to a lot of podcasts and motivational things. I love music, but most music is about heartache and life falling apart. And if I do that first thing in the morning, that's the message I'm feeding my brain. And I can't do that and have the energy I need.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. So right now, everyone on Twitter is talking about procrastination.
Yes.
I know that never happens to you. Never. But let's talk about procrastination a little bit. What is it that triggers procrastination?
I think a lot of it,
right?
Well, and for me, I think it comes down to 2 things. It's fear and it's clarity, because it's those same things that we've been talking about. If I'm fearful of something, I usually avoid it, which then the procrastination comes in. And if I'm unclear about it, I don't know how to focus. I don't know why I need to focus. So therefore, I procrastinate. There's a couple great people out there that are great resources. Rory Vaden is a great resource, and Eric Thomas is another great resource on procrastination. And one of the things that Eric Thomas says is, it's not a matter of procrastination, it's a matter of priority. And when something is a priority to you, you don't procrastinate. And it's so true, because if I really want something, I'm going to go for it and nothing is going to hold me back. But when I have all the time in the world, or when I'm not feeling connected to it, I procrastinate. Also, we've got to have deadlines. And this is where a lot of people fall down, because you may have a project that you're working on. And think about it this way. If I was in high school and the teacher said, we have a term paper due and it's due at the end of the year in May, when do most people wait to do it? Until about 2 days before it's due. But if they said, we have a term paper due in May, but the outline is due on October 1st, the table of contents is due on November 1st, we get it done. We have a deadline every time we go to the airport. We know what happens if we miss that deadline. We don't get on our plane. Yet miraculously, everything gets done and we're there 2 hours before the flight. It's because it's a priority. So my key is, you've got to set priorities in your day. And it could be, I want to make my sales calls by noon. The project is due on Friday, but I have to have this step of the project due by Tuesday. And every day you should have deadlines, even to when you want your day to end. And I work with a lot of salespeople, and their days oftentimes go into the evening. But if you set it up to say, I'm cutting my day off at 5:30, you now have an end time. And when you have an end time, when you have true deadlines, things get done. So procrastination is really about understanding why you're procrastinating so you can get clear, but then it's also about setting clear guidelines and deadlines and making those things a priority. So like they might be part of your big three, like anything else.
Breaking it up into little pieces. As you were talking, this is like completely unrelated, and yet it's related. I was thinking about that book that ended up being a movie, He's Just Not That Into You.
Yes.
And the guy was talking about how when a guy wants a girl, suddenly everything is possible.
Yes. I will say that I probably have a little too much experience go along that example there. But yes, it's true. It is so true. It's, when what they were saying in that movie is, when they can't stop thinking about you, they will call you right away. But when they're not that into you, you're not a priority in their world. And I've seen quotes like this all over social media, don't be on somebody's list if you're not a priority. And, we have to make those things a priority. So I think a lot of times we make a priority our kids, our job, and the last thing that we make a priority is ourselves. So going back to the concept of energy, I have a whole thing that I talk about where you need to take care of yourself first. And it's not selfish, but I can't be the best mom. I can't be the best coach. I can't be the best friend unless I am healthy, both mentally and physically. So we've got to learn to make ourselves a priority and our goals a priority so that we can be the best person we have and be able to serve others greatly.
So you talked a little bit about inside of this, you sort of talked a little bit about values. And I think, as you were talking about, so I was thinking about values, but I was also thinking about priorities, because this is something I see small business owners doing, and I see all of us doing. It's like what you say is a priority.
Yes.
Like really a priority. And sometimes I view that in terms of commitments. And I could say I'm really committed to living a healthy lifestyle, but I go to bed I go to bed late and I eat cream-filled donuts.
Yes.
Right. So I always say, if you want to know what a priority is for you, look at where your time and money goes.
Exactly. And that's one of my favorite quotes. And I use that in one of my classes. And it's so true. I have people all the time. Oh, my priority is my family. My priority is taking care of myself and getting healthy. And I'll say, great, show me your day timer. And the one thing that is not in there is time for their family and time to take care of themselves. And it's true. I can sit down and say, my priority this weekend is to put this class together. But if I'm sitting on the couch watching a Law and Order marathon, which sometimes happens, that's my priority. And so you really have to get honest with yourself. And I think a big part of all of this is the lack of honesty we have with ourselves. We lie to ourselves all the time. And I think a lot of it is that fear of going out there or that lack of clarity because we're just not sure what we really should be doing. But at the end of the day, we have to start being honest with ourselves and making all of these things a priority.
I don't even know how to ask this. Like, because we've all been there.
Yes.
Being dishonest with ourselves. We've all been there. Maybe some of the folks are there right now, or maybe somebody watching there is there right now. What's the first step? Like, how do you know you're being dishonest with yourself?
I think we all know when we're being dishonest with ourselves because we feel it. And whenever we're out of integrity, we feel it internally. And I really believe it comes down to how bad do you want it? Because change will not happen unless oftentimes the pain is enough. And, you really have to get down and say, what is this keeping me from? And looking at the negative side of it and saying, okay, I've been putting this off for so long. Why? And what am I not getting? We can sit there and say, what would I get? But many people are encouraged by negative reinforcement rather than positive reinforcement. So they can't look at what will I get? They know what they'll get: success, money, better relationships, better health. But it's more of what am I not getting? And really looking at, how the change is not happening. But you've got to start, just put your feet down and say enough is enough. But until you are really ready to make the change will not happen.
Let's talk about payoffs. Something you said made me think about payoffs, right? Because everything we do intentionally.
Yes.
Whether we're procrastinating, whether we're saying we're confused, whether we want to be a victim or a martyr or whatever. Like one of the, a favorite conversation among small business owners, and I saw a great post about this. It might have been on LinkedIn. I don't know where I saw it, but it was an awesome article. It says, maybe people just don't want to buy your product. So stop saying that the market is down. Stop saying that prices and competition and blah, blah, blah. Maybe your product people just don't want it.
Yes.
Right. So I want to talk about payoffs. You know what I'm saying about that? Do you know what I mean? You talked about integrity. You talked about we all know when we're lying to ourselves. And we do that for a reason. And that's getting to the payoff of what do I get out? What is it that I get out of this if I'm procrastinating so much that I miss a deadline? Let's say, for example, maybe you've decided to use speaking as a marketing strategy and you need to be a speaker, but you've got to develop a presentation. You've got to get yourself out on the speaker circuit and you procrastinate. What do you tell that person?
I would go back to their why. What is it that you're really doing this for? Do you have a message that you feel can help and that other people need to hear? So I would really start to try to get to that fire in their belly and say, if you don't do this, you're not going to be prepared. So you're probably going to blow it. These people are going to miss out on your message. So they're going to keep going into the spiral over here. And you have a bigger obligation. This is not about you. This is about them over here. So I think just oftentimes taking it off of them and putting it on something more global and larger than them to get them to see the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, and how by them holding back and procrastinating is really doing a disservice externally outside of their world and just trying to connect them on a deeper level to it. And just, really, I just keep asking them questions. Well, why? Well, tell me more about that. Well, what are you losing by not doing this? And if you don't do this, what are you going to do? Because you don't have to go out on the speaking, trail. You don't have to sell this product. But what are you going to do? Because you have to do something. And sometimes looking at the alternatives and realizing that the alternatives are not really what they want.
So it sounds like what you're saying is going through the motions really just isn't enough anymore.
No, it's not. And people feel it. People feel it when you show up and you're just going through the motions. And we have to be careful of that because, you can give a speech 27,000 times, and I think about, we were talking about music before we started on this. And sometimes the musicians, they've been playing those songs time and time again. And if they and you see it, you go to a concert and sometimes they're just playing the music. And sometimes they're connected with the audience. And which concert is better. The music's the same. It sounds the same. It doesn't feel the same. And that's what we really want. And so when you're just calling it in and going through the motions, you need to take a step back and really do a self-assessment and say, what's going on here? Because something has pulled you out of alignment. You've either lost connection with it, you don't believe in it anymore, you're tired, you're burned out, but whatever it is, whatever you feel like you're just doing it to do it, you got to take a step back and reassess.
So I'm going to take the conversation in a slightly different direction because you've
Okay.
sort of inspired me.
Good.
Right. And it has to do with, you can feel it. Do you feel that the market has changed? Because I've had a lot of conversations with clients and small business owners who are like, I'm doing all the right things. I just don't feel, but they're not working. But the right things, I believe, aren't connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can do an
Yes.
email campaign. You can be on social media. You can do
Mm-hmm.
all of these things. And like you said, it's not just like when you're at a concert or you're talking to somebody that you don't feel a connection. Is it possible to not feel a connection from an email?
Yeah. And it's also possible to feel a connection from an email. And I think you hit on the right word. You know, outside of food, clothes, and shelter, human connection is the next thing that we all crave. And so you need to make sure. So has the market changed? Yeah. It changed yesterday. It'll change tomorrow. It changes every day. And we have to really show up. It's our philosophy, not the economy. That really is what matters. And we have to really look at, how am I adding value in everything that I do? So whether it's just a conversation or you're selling a product, what is the value? And what does this mean to the end user so that they can get the buy-in? But if you cannot connect with them, and connection can come in the words that you use, it could come in the body language, in the tonality that you use, but you've got to make sure that you are finding a way to connect. Another way to get connected is to look at your target audience. What's important to them? It goes back to that old saying, nobody will care about you until they know how much you care about them. So we need to make it less about us and more about them. So what are the needs? What is the pain or the desire that my ideal client has? And how does my product serve them? How does my product get rid of their pain or create the solution to their greatest problem? And when you can get down on their level and be able to talk with them in that way, that's where the servitude comes in, and that's where the connection comes in.
So I'm sitting here writing because I have the attention span of a flea. Right? So I know that you're not necessarily billing yourself as a marketing coach or marketing expert. However, I think what I see that's missing with a lot of small business owners is exactly this, because you need to have that kind of a connection that's focused on what matters most to your customers in order to have your marketing messages connect and make sense. And when your marketing message connects and makes sense, then your sales go up and you make more money and you're going to be happy overall. Now, do you have these kinds of conversations with your clients? And what are some of the ways that you help them get clear and focus on their customer?
This is what I do. I'm, as a business coach and strategist, I do a lot of this. So we look at their, initial presentations that they're going out there. I have them do an exercise a lot of times when we first start meeting with each other. That's called the feature benefit exercise. And I have them just get a piece of paper and fold it in two, so they have two long columns. And on one side, they write down the feature. What is it that they're bringing to the table? It could be a designation, their time in a certain business industry, the tools that their company offers them, whatever the feature is. Then we go to the benefit side, which is really where the magic happens. And the benefit is, what does that mean to your client? Because, and I'll take real estate as an example. I can say that I'm going to put your property on this internet site. But what I need to do is be able to explain why I chose that internet site. So the benefit of choosing this internet site is it has this many views, people stay on it this amount longer, whatever it is, so that the client is like, okay, you've really thought about this. That tool is now of value to me. It now shows me how I'm going to achieve my ultimate goal. And I think that's what we have to do, is we have to understand our value and differentiation in everything that we do to make sure that it is connecting with them. And I think also connection is just letting them know that we care. So it's not just about the product. You've got to go deeper with them and connect with them on a human level. So you need to know your people. You can't just jump into them and say, hi, I'm Clara, so I'm going to sell you all about distractions today. You know, you want to talk with them a little bit first. How's your day going? Tell me a little bit about you. How did you get started in your business? Tell me your story. And really get to go deeper with them so that you can better understand their needs on that more internal level.
So do you feel that this is a process most often? I know every person is different, but do you find that some of them really struggle and have to go through a process?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
do you just get this aha moment all of a sudden?
It's both. Some people it's an aha moment, but oftentimes it's a thought process because they'll get stumped. They'll make the list of the features and be like, I don't know why. And that's where we go through and we dialogue and we start talking about it, because until we know our value, we can't communicate it to the rest of the world. So we really have to get clear on what that is. And a lot of people don't understand it. They see the stuff, but they don't know how to tie it and connect it with the end user.
Ah, that is such great. So we are almost coming up on the end of our time. And there is this whole social stream going. So Clara, what parting words do you have for our audience about getting clear, procrastinating? What are some beginning steps that someone might take after watching the show?
Sure. First and foremost, take a deep breath. You know, it's going to be okay. And it is a process. Don't try to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Take baby steps, and it's the process of incremental change. So start with one area in your life. So for example, if you chose the bubble time, I mentioned that I do it in 45-minute increments. Maybe start with 15 and then go to 30. So take small incremental changes in what you do. Second, don't take yourself so seriously. We're all human, and the best of us still fall down. And a master is not someone that gets it 100% of the time. A master just knows how to retune quicker. So allow yourself to fall and use those. And the other thing I would say is just set aside some time each week to really plan and get centered and clear with yourself before taking on the week as it comes.
That's great advice. So where should people go to get the book? Where can people go to get more information?
They can go on Amazon or to Barnes & Noble. My book is there. Again, it's 52 weeks of, or Find Your Focus, 52 weeks of clarity. I have a blog that people can Google my name and find that. And my website is www.clara-ty.com. And then I'm on Instagram and Twitter and all those things as well.
What's your favorite platform? If somebody wants to reach out to you on social, where's the best way to find you?
It's probably going to be either Instagram or Facebook. That's where I tend to spend most of my time.
What do you post on Instagram? Just curious.
I post every day. I do a motivational quote of some sort and then try to tie it. And so if the quote is, I think today's quote was, don't ever be afraid to try. The true failure is not in trying. So I'll post the photo and then say something like, you know, what are you going to try today? Something to kind of get them thinking and maybe spark an internal conversation. And then every Friday I do have a YouTube channel, and every Friday I do a video blog. So I'll post those up there as well.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for being with us, Clara Capano. It was great having you.
Thank you. It was a true honor.
And there you have it, another plugged in version. Make sure to check out the tweet stream, which is still going strong. Make sure you check out Find Your Focus over on Amazon. Check out Clara's YouTube channel and join us again every Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and plug into what's going on in small business, where we, in Bizapalooza Chat, we make sense out of small business, simplify everything. It's all about getting together and chatting. And Clara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.